You're listening to the 10 podcast where we teach, empower, and nurture minds. And I would like to welcome you back to the Nurturing Children's Confidence series, episode 14. And I'm your host, Jahseen. And in this week's episode, we're looking at how best we can help children to establish a growth mindset. As parents, carers, and educators, we would love to see the children in our care approach challenges with confidence, bounce back from mistakes, and believe in their abilities to grow. However, children can sometimes adopt a fixed mindset where they believe that their abilities are static and unchangeable. This kind of mindset can hold them back from reaching their full potential and impact their self-esteem. In this week's episode, we'll explore what we can do to help children to develop a growth mindset. We will look at how growth mindset differs from a fixed mindset. We will also discuss the profound impact it has on children's confidence and their self-esteem. And most importantly, we will provide some actionable strategies to help the children in your care develop a growth mindset. Let's get started.
Welcome to the 10 Podcast, where we teach, empower, and nurture minds. This podcast is dedicated to providing parents and educators with valuable tips, strategies, and insights to support children and young with or without special educational needs. Your host is Jahseen Foster, a qualified special educational needs teacher and a certified children's coach. Join us as we explore ways to install confidence and self-esteem in children from a young age.
Before we continue, let us define what is a growth mindset. A growth mindset is a concept developed by the psychologist Carol Dweck. It's the belief that our intelligence, skills, and abilities can improve with effort, practice, and perseverance. It's about seeing challenges as opportunities to grow rather than seeing them as a roadblock. In contrast to a fixed mindset, where it's the belief that abilities are innate and unchangeable, children with a fixed mindset might think, I'm either good at something or I am not, and they will avoid trying new things for the fear of failure. For example, a child with a fixed mindset may say something like, I'm terrible at drawing, and they might refuse to participate in art classes or refuse to practice at home. On the other hand, a child with a growth mindset might think, drawing is very hard for me right now, but I'll keep practicing until I improve. This simple shift from I can't to I can't yet make all the difference. A growth mindset empowers children to take on challenges and embrace learning, which naturally builds their confidence, their self-esteem, and their resilience. Let us take a moment to understand how a fixed mindset can impact children's confidence in a negative way. Imagine a child who believes that they're not good at sports. They may avoid joining in games because of their fear of embarrassment, because of their fear of getting it wrong. Each time they avoid trying, their confidence becomes weaker. This is reinforcing their belief that they are not good enough. This is reinforcing their belief that they're not good at sports. Over time, this avoidance leads to a cycle of low self-esteem and missed opportunity for growth. This is why it is essential to support children in shifting from a fixed to a growth mindset, which teaches them that failure isn't something to fear. It's an essential part of learning. If you've just joined us, you're listening to the 10 podcast where we teach, empower, and nurture minds. And in this week's episode, we're looking at how best we can help children to shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And in this next segment, we're going to look at the best way to introduce the growth mindset concept to a child who may find it difficult to grasp the concept. Here's a simple analogy that you can use to explain the concept of growth mindset to children. You could say the brain is like a muscle. Just like the muscles in your body get stronger each time you exercise, your brain grows stronger when you challenge it. Every time you solve a tough problem, practice a skill, or try something new, you're giving your brain a workout. You can tell children that when something feels difficult, that's your brain growing stronger. It's just like when your legs get tired after a long workout, they are getting stronger. The aim of this analogy is to help children to understand that effort leads to growth and that challenges are a sign of progress, not a reason to give up. In this next segment, let us look at some examples of negative phrases that a child with a fixed mindset may say, and then we'll combat it with a growth mindset response. For example, a child with a fixed mindset might say, I am not good at math. I'll never get an A. I am so stupid. A growth mindset response could be, you're finding math tough at the moment, but if you continue to practice, you will surely improve. Another example of a phrase that a fixed mindset child might say is, I'm a failure. I'm so stupid. I made a mistake on my football game and now we failed. A growth mindset response might be, it is okay to make mistakes. That is how you learn. What can you do differently next time to ensure that you don't make the same mistakes? Rephrasing their negative phrase with a more growth mindset phrase is an opportunity to help that child to grow and think in a positive way and reflect on their experience using reflective practice. Sometimes children compare themselves to others, saying things like, I'll never be good as them. I'll never be good at Sharon because she's so great at sport. You can help them to see the growth mindset's perspective by reminding them everyone learned different. Everyone is good at different things. Everyone learning at their own pace. By encouraging these reframes and reinforcing children to think differently, it helps children to see themselves as capable learners rather than being stuck in their current abilities. If you've just joined us, you're listening to the 10 podcast where we teach, empower, and nurture minds. And in this week's episode, we're looking at how best we can help children to shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And in this next segment, we're going to look at some practical tools to help build children growth mindset. Let us explore realistic strategies for parents, teachers, and caregivers to support children to establish a growth mindset. For parents and caregivers, start by praising efforts rather than outcomes. Instead of saying, you're so smart, try saying, you worked really hard on that puzzle. I'm proud of your efforts. Normalize mistakes in your home. You could create a mistake of the day tradition where children share a mistake they made and what they learned from it. This simple practice helps children to understand that mistakes are a natural part of learning. Use the word yet to encourage growth. If your child says, I can't do this, encourage them to add yet. The small words shift their mindset towards possibilities and effort. So rather than saying, I can't do math, I'm not good at math yet, I can't ride a bike yet, ensuring that they have hope and ensuring that they have possibilities towards getting better. As a teacher, collaborative learning activities can help foster a growth mindset. Group problem solving encourage children to see challenges as opportunities to learn from each other. After completing a task, ask reflective questions like, what did you learn from this? Or what would you do differently next time? This helps children to focus on their progress rather than their perceived limitations. Teachers in the classroom display inspirational quotes such as, mistakes are a proof of you trying. Mistakes help you learn. This can help you to create a growth-orientated environment. Celebrate progress rather than comparisons. For example, instead of saying you're better than your classmate, try to look at how much faster you read today comparing to last week. Rather than comparing them to someone else, compare them to their own self. Try to see how many words you can get correct this week comparing to last week. Teachers use stories to inspire growth mindset. Children love stories, and they are a fantastic way to illustrate growth mindset. For example, the story of Jake. Jake loved to build with blocks, but always got upset when his towers fell. He'd give up and shout, I'm so stupid, I'm bad at building things. One day his teacher suggested he try and see what he could do differently. by answering some open-ended question from his teacher like, what part do you find most difficult? What are you using at the bottom of your block to build the foundation? Jake was able to reflect, analyze the strategies that he used to build his blocks, and realize that he was not using a firm foundation. Over time, he built taller and taller towers and felt proud of his progress. Story like these teaches children that persistent lead to improvement and reflective practice leads to better practice for the future, even when things seem difficult at first. I do understand that sometimes it's difficult to help children to transition from a fixed to a growth mindset. So let's talk about what we can do if a child seems stuck in a fixed mindset. It is common for some children to resist change. If a child is stuck, start small. Choose a simple challenge where success is likely, such as completing a puzzle or learning a new word. Celebrate even the smallest progress. Curiosity is a powerful tool. Instead of saying to our children when they do something that we perceive as wrong, you've done it wrong, try it this way. Instead, you could say, that's an interesting approach. How did you come up with that idea? This encourages exploration rather than avoidance. So make sure that when we are trying to help our children to shift from fixed to a growth mindset, ensure that we are patient. It will take time. It is quite a difficult thing for us adults to do. So can you imagine how difficult this is for a child? Let us recap. Today, we've discussed how fostering a growth mindset can empower children to face challenges with confidence and resilience. We also discussed that a growth mindset is the belief that abilities can be improved with efforts, whilst a fixed mindset assumes that a person is unchangeable. We also talk about practical tools like praise effort, celebrate mistakes, and use reflective questions to help build a growth mindset. We also talk about stories, analogies, and small wins to encourage children to embrace growth as a long life process. I hope you've learned something from this week's episode. Thank you for listening to the 10 podcast where we teach, empower, and nurture minds. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in our next episode on the 10 podcast. Take care. Bye.
To make the most of today's episode, download additional resources or contact Jahseen at www.tenyourmind.com. That's TEN yourmind.com. You can also visit www.coachjahseen.com for more information.